Since returning from injury at the turn of the calendar year, Zion Williamson has been a scoring phenom. In his last 20 games, he's played 560 minutes and scored 513 points, 25.7 points per game, 7 boards, and 5 assists on 62% true shooting. Not only has he been putting up these big numbers, but he's been looking good doing it. Apparently, he is playing at the lowest weight of his entire NBA career, and looking at him, yeah, I buy that. Things are looking up for Zion, but I must admit I'm fearful that this recent stretch will just be another flash in the pan as it has been in the past. The signs that this is different are there, but not so overwhelmingly there that I can just be blindly optimistic. So, is Zion Williamson officially back and ready to make the superstar leap that he was meant to earlier on in his NBA career? Or is this just another instance of a flash in the pan that is giving us false hope, and this will just be a depressing memory in the near future? Let's talk about it. Hello everybody, welcome to Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel and drop a like on this video, and check us out over on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you would like to enjoy this as an audio-only experience. In order to give you the full scope of just how effective Zion has been since he has returned, I wanted to go ahead and highlight his performance against the Los Angeles Lakers, which was played on March 4th, where he had 37 points in 26 minutes of action, and he ended up being a plus 13 in what ended up being a 21-point loss for the Pelicans, which really shows the limiting factor of the minutes that Zion is playing, while simultaneously showing just how damn impactful he has been when he's actually out there playing. So let's look at these highlights real quick. Right there, picks off the pass to Luka and just takes that all the way. That's some easy points. He's averaging over a steal per game in this stretch as well. Really short jumper from him. And that is an area of the floor where Zion has especially stepped up in his ability, just shooting 50% in that range this season. Here he is, top of the key. A center shows too high, and he's able to just drive all the way in. I do not know why Jemison brought him out all that far. Great cross-court pass from Zion to Jordan Hawkins. He has very good vision. His handle is also something that he never gets appreciated for. And look at the touch on that shot. For all intents and purposes, this is a very well defended drive. Obviously, Zion has a much smaller guard on him, so that's a mismatch, but with that well-timed help from Hayes, you know, guys looking at him on the wing, there was plenty of potential here for him to miss this shot, but he throws that up over the outstretched hands of Hayes and it drops through. Another fast break opportunity here for the New Orleans Pelicans, and he's just going to go right at LeBron. For the most part, I feel like Zion has done, you know, not really gone up for the highest of jumps in the world this year, but this is an instance where he can show how his verticality can just make him damn near impossible to stop as an offensive player, because where he jumps from, where LeBron has him, that's a point where you would overextend yourself and leave the layup short or overshoot it to compensate for, you know, most players. But he's able to finger roll that, and with the soft touch. So another drive. This one's just some bully ball, pushes Hayes completely out of the way. On this elbow, once again, this is some serious bully ball, puts that in his offhand. Screen here by Missy, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but he gets Hayes on his back, and he's able to shield the ball away from him and lay it up on the other side of the goal. Looks like Hayes might have got hit on the head on that one. Murphy finds Zion. Look at that leap, bro. That is dangerous. Would not want to be on the receiving end of that. Posterizes Jemison. Posting up here on Dorian Finney-Smith, something that I do wish Zion did just a little bit more, but he muscles that one up for the and one. Then he takes him out to the three-point line, and once again he displays some really nice finishing. As you can see, the ball is low here. This is a really low point to be shooting it from, but he just does the right flick of the wrist to make it spin off of the backboard and in. Gets through Finney-Smith, then just bumps around LeBron. Another layup. Nice handoff action there from Kelly Olynyk. Actually, I want to highlight that action. All that Zion needs on this play, all that Zion needs is that 1 second where Vando turns his head. He has his eye on the ball here because he's trying to deny it from Zion. And as he senses this screen coming, he goes to knock the ball out of the way, but now the ball is in Olynyk's hands. Zion has just enough of a step on Vando that by the time he bursts, he's already by him, and he's got Kelly Olynyk maybe potentially bumping him a little bit. And then it's LeBron who's backpedaling as the only rim protection there, and he's confident that he can just get right around that, and then he does. So just the split second of that backdoor play right there, all that Zion needed to get a head of steam going to the basket and to take full advantage. So there's a great display of just how dominant this guy can be as a driver and as a scorer in general. That's something that I think I myself tend to lose in my memory of Zion as time goes on, because there can be such long stretches without seeing him, where I always remember him as being more of a play finisher and post-up player than he actually is. The guy is just initiating and driving from the perimeter constantly. He's super fast. There's no real larger forwards that can keep up with him, and smaller guards are not going to have the muscle for him, so he's a matchup nightmare. And even if you do give him the space on the three-point shot, like actually I think I can pull this back up. I believe when he brought Vando out to the three-point line, he backs up and then just gets the full head of steam. So yeah, right here, you see he's backing up. I said Vando, it was Dorian Finney-Smith, but Dorian Finney-Smith backs up, gives Zion the room, and then he's like, okay, bet, and then just goes right in and drives anyways. That type of shit, it makes Zion an incredibly scary downhill threat. There is an argument to be made that he is the best downhill threat we've seen in this game. I mean, I'm not going to take that title from LeBron at the moment, but if Zion plays like he did play in this Lakers game as a driver frequently for a prolonged period of time, if he's available to do that, he could come for that crown as the true best slasher in NBA history, because he has the speed, he has the handle, he has the intelligence, and then he obviously has the verticality and the muscle to just be a complete freight train going to the rim while not being at risk of turning the ball over. Let's go through some of those averages I mentioned in the intro just one more time, just to get some of the specifics. In his last 20, he's averaging 25.7 points, 7.2 rebounds, and 5.2 assists in just 28 minutes of action. His efficiency has been great, 62% true shooting, and he is shooting 57% on twos overall, which might feel a little bit low, but as I mentioned, his volume on the floater range area shots has been much higher than in years prior. 68% at the rim for him is actually a little bit lower than his career average of 72, and I feel like he's one of those guys who could get in the 80s in terms of his finishing at the basket. So that would be a nice addition. I think he could be a little bit better there, but it's still very good for his volume. But he's at 50% on floater range shots. So that short little jumper that he hit earlier, the crazy hook that he hit over Jackson Hayes, that type of shot has become more and more a part of his diet. And it's an area of the field where he just didn't shoot all that well. He was at a career 38% from that area before this. And that jump is a significant difference maker. Being able to hit that floater range, that 3 to 10 foot shot as a driver and as a slasher, now you have to worry about a more variety of contest when dealing with him as a downhill threat, because he's not just going to put your ass in the basket. He might float it over you, so you have to be prepared for that possibility too. It just adds to the layers to his offense as, you know, an overall not particularly complex offensive player. Adding that to his repertoire makes him more complex to guard. His rim gravity is absolutely insane. The way that he brings the attention of the defense is absolutely insane. He got a triple-double the other day, a 10-assist game with, or it might have been 12 assists with 22 points. You know, that game that Shaq said wasn't impressive enough. The reason for that is that his gravity and scoring ability brings the attention of the defense to a degree where Zion since returning, has been the most double-teamed player in the NBA. And he pretty much historically, statistically, is one of the most double-teamed players in the NBA, competing with Luka Doncic in that category. Overall, Luka gets the edge just because he's there more often. But when Zion plays, he has the defense's full attention. They're always bringing a second body. And the thing about that is, with a player like Zion, you worry that when they're receiving an extra body, that might be their undoing. That's something we've seen with a lot of players, like Joel Embiid, for example. That was his biggest issue in the postseason that held him back from them being the scorer that he wanted to be, because every time a double came, he turned the ball over. So it's like, okay, if the consequence of a double team is a possession for us, or, just a slower, unorganized possession from the Sixers, then we're just going to do that as much as we possibly can. And so consistently, a double resulted in a bad possession for the Sixers that, it was a workable strategy. Just to give Joel credit, he worked on this as his career went along, but where Zion's starting point is right now is significantly better than Joel's was, and is significantly better than a lot of players who grab a lot of the defense's attention as scorers, but aren't necessarily the most gifted playmakers. But Zion is a gifted playmaker. His numbers, if you bump them up to per 36, he's at 7 assists per game, which makes him one of the highest volume assist guys in the entire league. I think I skipped over those numbers, so let me just real quick run them by you. His averages in these last 20 games, if you put those numbers into per 36, then he averages 33 points per game, 9.4 rebounds, and 6.7 assists, again, while being above league average in the true shooting category. It's a matter of minutes. If Zion is getting starting level minutes, then he is a 30, 10, and 7 guy. That's incredible. That's incredible. That makes him one of the best offensive players in the entire NBA right now. Just, he hasn't been able to be in that context, so 25 doesn't stand out as that crazy in today's NBA, but he could very well be a 30-point per game scorer as soon as next year if there is legitimacy to this being a long-term thing. As of right now, the only big thing that I could give him criticism for is his free throws, because he's getting 8 attempts per game, which actually does feel mildly low, but that does scale to over 10 if he's at a 30-point per game mark, if he's at a starting mark. So decent free throw volume, but he's only shooting 66% at the line, which is leaving a lot of points on the board. If he was even at 78% from the line, that would be like an extra point per game. And you just want to be able to hit those one, especially like if you're going to be going to the free throw line a lot, like Zion will be, it's nice to actually hit the damn things. You would think his increased touch, his increased floater range capability would translate to the free throw line, but no, he's actually down percentage-wise from what he has been the previous 2 years of his career. Not much to criticize beyond that. You could highlight New Orleans' record because they are 6-14 in the 20 games where he's been playing this well, but the difference would be substantial if Zion was playing like 32, 33 plus minutes, 36, whatever it may be, like true starter capacity. If you were able to play Zion without any kind of minutes restriction, without any fear of injury, then we are talking about a guy who would be leading his team to wins. And that's despite the fact that the New Orleans Pelicans are not a very good roster around him, not optimized in any capacity. I've liked the Kelly Olynyk addition just because the floor spacing 5 obviously pairs well next to Zion, because I would like a 3-point shooting center, but not one who's Kelly Olynyk, one who can be both a defender and a 3-point shooter. That archetype is extremely hard to find and extremely expensive to pay for, so who knows if they can get that. But what I'm trying to illustrate is just very suboptimal roster conditions, and yet Zion persists as this dominant force. As of right now, they are plus 7.1 with him on the floor offensively, and their opponent offensive rating remains basically the exact same. So he's a neutral defensively, and then he's a plus 7 on the offensive end. That could be improved even more with some extra help. I do think for New Orleans, if they're trying to build upon this, their core 4 that they have right now of Zion, Trey Murphy III, who's also been great and underappreciated this year. He's been a 20-point per game scorer, in large part filling in some of the absences for Ingram and Zion and all of that, but nevertheless handling higher volume pretty damn well. And Herb Jones, I think Herb Jones is a player that you just do not get rid of. And DeJounte Murray, who has been decent enough while not shooting his three well for the New Orleans Pelicans. So there's good players here, and I think the big thing is just finding a five who can be a true floor spacer to maximize Zion's ability. I think of him plus a floor spacing five in the same way I think of Giannis plus a floor spacing five. Like, it just makes perfect sense to have that. I really, really think Zion is showing what he can be when he is given this opportunity. But for the Pelicans, do you want to hold on to him and view this as a sign of things to come? View this as like it finally paying off how long you waited for this to work out? Or do you want to sell high on him? The thing is, selling high on him would not net you the value that he actually does bring if he ends up being healthy. So it would be a real bitch if you traded the guy after years of putting up with his bullshit just for him to finally be healthy and kicking ass on a basketball team immediately thereafter. That would not be very good. That would be rather ugly for them. So hopefully we don't have that. Hopefully we don't have that. That would be sad. I mean, if Zion, I would prefer Zion's career. If that's what it takes for Zion to have a prolonged career is for the Pelicans to take a huge L in the process, then I'm happy to make that sacrifice. But given the history of both Chris Paul and Anthony Davis leaving this team, I don't really want to see history repeat itself there, but it might very well. Speaking of, do we think that that Zion can maintain this, that this is health and being in good shape and being one of the arguably top 10 players in the NBA when healthy? Is that something that can be maintained for a long period? Well, a big thing with the cycle that Zion's been on, it's a very vicious cycle where you get injured, and then because you get injured, you don't play much basketball, you aren't really in playing shape, you're not doing it consistently. So the weight comes on, and it comes on quickly for him where it doesn't for other players. So suddenly 3 months out is 3 months of not being in good shape, adding up towards now he's like 15 pounds heavier than he should be. So you get multiple of those stretches, and then you get the never-ending criticism of Zion being fat. So the hope has to be that getting this weight down, also the fact that he's been playing lower to the rim, which I think has very much been intentional. You're not seeing a lot of dunks from him. You're not seeing a lot of crazy high-flying posters or nothing like that. Like, he's mostly staying low to the ground when he can and using his verticality sparingly, which I do think will help negate a lot of injuries. But at the end of the day, he's a really huge dude who is moving really fast and throwing his weight around possession after possession after possession. And if he has to deal with that over and over, it is inevitable that he is going to get some sort of significant injury again. So do we think his pattern with the injury will stop there? Will they find a way to keep the weight off as he recovers? I don't know. We haven't seen it happen yet. Really seems like over this recent stretch, the reason that he lost all this weight was because he was out with an injury so long, and then he put on a bunch of weight, and then he took more time to get it off. So a prolonged thing here, and the most cynical perspective on this, and one that I've kind of had as a nagging voice in the back of my mind, not one that I want to actually be true, but one that does make a lot of sense. Did Zion make this return purely for the financial incentive? Because we had a lot of rumblings this year of him potentially losing millions to even tens of millions of dollars on his contract because of different various bonuses or stipulations to his contract. So like, he has certain weight goals, he has certain games played goals, all of that stuff, that if he reaches a certain threshold, very significant clauses within his contract will end up paying out, because when he got extended, his contract came with a lot of caveats and a lot of different markers that he would have to hit. There's a chance here that he hit these markers so that he would get the money, played enough so that he would get the money, got in shape so that he would get the money, and then as soon as he has that money guaranteed, he might just fall back to the very same bad habits again. Maybe his contract, I think, has the same stipulations every year, so it could, I don't know, is there an auto renewal? And he's just like, all right, I guess I'll get back into playing again. Either way, I really just have to hope at his core that Zion's motivation in this has not just been entirely financial. I don't think there's anything wrong with players motivating themselves and getting better through money as long as they're actually doing it and it's tangibly affecting winning. But if your mentality behind this was based in large part, almost in its entirety, specifically in just getting that bag, I can't really trust that guy to be a franchise option going forward. If that's the only thing that really matters to him, the only thing that'll really motivate him, like if having a crazy amount of God-given talent, of being one of the greatest athletic prospects basketball has ever seen, and having the potential to be one of the best players basketball has ever seen, is not enough of a motivating factor to get Zion to do it, and it needs to be the money, then I think he's kind of doomed, because the only way that he is going to persevere through all this injury stuff that will continue to happen to some degree or another is if he actually has that motivation and that perseverance inside of him. If he doesn't, well, this is just another flash in the pan, just another moment of getting our hopes up just for Zion to completely disappoint us. I'm going to be vaguely optimistic. Can't be blindly optimistic. I don't know what he's going to be, but I do know that he's been playing great lately, and I wanted to give him credit for it. Sorry it took so long for me to acknowledge more than just like passively in a news video. But yeah, Zion, at least right now, is back, and it's pretty fucking awesome. Shout out to Nick for editing this video, but that is it. Goodbye.